Today, we're talking about how to optimize your sleep with science-backed micro steps. And I'm really intrigued for what we're going to learn in this episode, as today's guest is an amazing woman that I met fairly recently through business networking. And she partners with Lux Resorts to design bespoke sleep experiences. Sabine Christelli is a holistic sleep and deep neuro rest scientist, a podcaster, speaker, and a facilitator. And Sabine has a Bachelor of Science in biochemistry, immunology. She has a graduate research certificate in sleep research. She's an NLP Master Practitioner, a hypnotherapist, and an internationally trained Kundalini Yoga teacher specialising in breathing. And if that is enough, Sabine also home birthed her 3 children and is currently Director of Sleep and Rejuvenation at the Lux Resort, the Reef House Boutique in sunny Palm Cove by the Coral Sea and the amazing Daintree. I am so excited because I do love my sleep, Sabine, and so I'm excited just by reading that. I'm really, really keen to hear all about what you do. So welcome to the Coaching Circle, Sabine Christelli.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm almost blushing when you read all that out, but yes, it's all true. And thank you for having me so I can share my passion with your audience.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm like I said, I've always been a good sleeper. Like there's times when I wake up and different things, but it never stresses me. I always know I go back to sleep, but I value sleep really highly. So I'm really keen to hear what you've got to share. But before we get into that, I know that there's all different people who listen into this podcast, and people would love to hear the backstories and how do people, what is the journey that gets people to start their business and do what they do. So can you tell us, Sabine, what led you to start your business and why is it important for you for what you do?
Yes, well, it started when I was already in Germany and a little child. I found it really interesting to observe how people thrive and how other people don't. And I've always been really curious. I'm still, if you can give me something interesting, I'll always be, wow, that's so interesting. So my brain is wired to find out things, and I've been mystified by what it is that makes people thrive, completely get to be 110 or more, and other people that try to do all the right thing and still can't get there. So what happened is initially I got my Bachelor of Science to find a cure for cancer, because that was just my grandiose idea that this would happen. Anyway, I learned so much about the biology, our immunology, all the way, how you dissect things and get down to the genetic level as a research assistant as well. But I noticed that, hang on, it's not just that. It's what we eat. It's how we think. And I realized, wow. So that's when I studied all the other things, because I myself wanted to be healthy and be my best human for my kids and for the world and for my own experience. And what happened then is I realized that I would like to share it. And upon learning about Kundalini Yoga, that is what shifted it for me. I came across Kundalini, even though I've been doing yoga for about 20 or 15 years or so. I came across Kundalini Yoga and discovered that those ancient people actually understood a lot more than just a posture and a breath. They understood the mechanics of the mind. They understood how, when we move a body in a certain way, how we nourish the organs, or how we think, how we breathe, and all of those things. And I had to study it. So I immersed. Once I did that, it was for myself again. I realized, no way, I have to teach this. I have to sit there and teach everybody, share it and deepen as I do. And that started my small business part-time. Yeah. And it's now gone all the way to sleep. So people wondering, well, how did you get to sleep, Sabine? Well, we obviously have yoga nidra. We obviously have the nervous system relaxation. It's all about your nervous system and your awareness. But at that point, I was giving a talk in a science lab about productivity and breath and relaxation. And they were quite open when I said, have you ever studied how in that lab they were studying sleep? Have you ever figured out yet how breathing can help you with sleep? And I said, well, no, not really. Sounds interesting. And well, a year later, I enrolled in doing a PhD and going back to science after all those years, and going back into the science field on sleep. And now I combine all that and help people, because we have an epidemic of people having problems with sleep, don't we, at the moment?
Wow.
does that kind of answer that? It's too
Yes.
to share, but I'm trying to make it simple.
Yeah, no, that is fascinating. And on that, Sabine, I'm interested, like what has research shown and what have you found that is really at the cause of people having problems sleeping these days?
Well, I like to look at it from the larger perspective because we can go really zoom in as a scientist, right? And that's super interesting. Which gene does what, which molecule does what, and that's all got its place. When we actually zoom out and look at the bigger picture, all the things that we're studying and that affect sleep are triggered through stress, are triggered through fight or flight, are triggered through not able to really rest because we are too stressed, whether we even know it or not. Some people say, I'm not really stressed. But it's a bit like, all about the NLP and hypnosis and everything. We're like a computer. And if all the tabs are still on, but we're telling ourselves it's time to go to sleep, I'm actually tired, that's unfortunately not good enough. And that's what actually creates the problems with sleep in a level that both the yogis and science will agree with. It's a nervous system issue. It's an inability to really relax on the deepest level. And if you look at it, like, I know you know this, but maybe some of your audience will find this inspirational, that traditionally, when we evolved as humans, we would be very vulnerable in those 1/3 of our life at night. We lie there, we completely let go, we are very vulnerable, we're not productive, we're not reproducing, all those things humanity kind of needed to get further. And so in that state, we needed to feel safe to be able to rest. Otherwise, we'd be listening out for the saber-toothed tiger, and then we'd be ready to go. These days, everything is the saber-toothed tiger, Toni. So it's like that last thing we watched on a reel. It's that news we happen to hear. It's when we checked our bank account. It's when someone sends us a text that's upsetting. It's maybe we gamed and had fun for too long and we're actually really wired. And so what happens is, this is the amazing thing that most people that I meet don't realize. They say, well, I can fall asleep really well, but why do I wake up? Or why don't I wake up refreshed? Well, the answer that everybody's going to want to hear is, because you didn't wind down enough for the evolution of who you are to feel safe to go into the deep, restful, neurologically rejuvenating sleep. Does that explain that well? Because I just want to make sure this is an important message.
Absolutely, Sabine. I think that is really well explained. And I think, one of the things, and I love your kind of take on this, because like I absolutely get what you're saying there about not winding down enough, and that would be me. I don't ever have problems falling asleep. Anytime I have problems, it's waking up at like 2:30 or 3:30 or 4:30. Sometimes that's because it's my cat. Sometimes it's because I'm thinking about stuff, right? That, whatever things that I've got going on. But it's never a massive problem. But do you think for the people that are having trouble going to sleep, that's, I often hear people saying about that's when they go to sleep, is when all their thoughts start racing, because I guess during the day they're often distracted with whatever else. And then by the time they go to bed and lie down, there's nothing there to distract them. And then that's when the thoughts kick in. Yeah.
Precisely. And that's also why people get sick on holiday. I do say to people, you're on a retreat here, and what can happen is that the things that you were too busy to acknowledge suddenly come up, and you might either get sick, or a certain belief or thought wants to be met. As you know all about it, we hold it in the body, and if we keep piling it in, it will look for an opportunity to be met, and it might be that you get triggered all of a sudden. And so yes, that is what happens every night as well. And that's why I have these techniques to actually release the busy mind. We literally are living in a world of so much information that we're not actually designed to process, that if we don't learn how to meditate or journal or use the breath, those 3 things are very powerful. And a few other nice handy tips are there that you can do, like a shower before bed, more magnesium, right? All of that. But if we ultimately don't realize that the mind is not meant to be running the show, we're meant to run the show, and the mind is our tool, then it will go nuts at night, going, well, you've had 3 hours. Hello, we've got a couple of problems that are not even real problems. Often, sometimes they are. And then it wants you to get, so what it does is, I love this because it's really quite smart. So it gives you 3 hours of sleep or whatever. whatever. And it goes,
Yeah.
okay, we've had some sleep, but now we have got these big problems like the saber-toothed tigers coming to eat us. We have to metaphorically now resolve our problems, whether they're big or small. And then what happens is it wakes you up, you're thinking, part of you knows this is ridiculous, I need to sleep, and you don't know how to get back. So there's also tips on how to get back to sleep. So when you're awake, certain things will not help that people do things like going on an iPad or lying there and tossing and turning. That really doesn't work well. But there's other techniques that I teach. I can share them in a minute if you want. That when you wake up at night like this, what will actually help you to get back to sleep sooner and reassure your nervous system to, again, that it's okay, we go for another cycle. Because sleep is a 90-minute cycle. So if you wake up and you've only gone into that next cycle, because you sort of dip in and out every 90 minutes subtly. So if you wake up and you dip out and suddenly the brain goes, actually, hello, we've got some issues, let's resolve them. She's had 3 hours of sleep, come on, blah, blah, blah. Then it's a 90 minutes before that dip comes again, where you will really want to sleep. And that's why people toss and turn, and you might as well work out your problems or figure out how to go back to sleep with your breathing or your posture or with your habits. There's so many amazing things you can do. Sorry, I share a lot because I'm so passionate about it.
No, don't be sorry. I love it. It's fascinating because I'm thinking about this for myself. And I think if my brain's got things it's working on, it gives me about 4 cycles because it's usually after about 6 hours. And then it starts going, okay, now we're awake, or the cat comes in. I don't know, maybe she's on my cycles as well. Who knows? But I am super fascinated, and I'm sure whoever's listening is really keen for some tips as well. So I would love to know, as I guess as a lead into that, can you tell us a bit about how you help people? Because I know you're partnering at the moment with what was the name of the place you're at? The Reef House Boutique, and you've got this director of sleep and rejuvenation. So are these like specific sort of programs that people go to the resort to, like reset their sleep, or what happens there?
At this point, I have designed a retreat so people can reset their circadian rhythms. During the wet season in particular, can come in, reset, learn about sleep, and then take that with them when they leave. Because there's a lot of things people do where they need to have someone support them break an old habit. It's all about habits. You and I know that, NLP and hypnosis. So there might be a habit that, I always get up at 8, or I always go to bed late, or I always have a nap. And that can really disturb circadian rhythms, having too many naps. So we almost, if you were to go to a sleep lab to get so-called adjusted, they would really sleep deprive you, which is not fun.
That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, but there is a subtlety in it, so that you have to cut out the naps if you can, unless, there's a situation where you can't help it, so that you actually get a proper sleep drive at night. You're actually deeply ready to sleep rather than just, I'm kind of tired, and you're kind of walking around half in and out of sleep. So that's what I'm designing, so people can actually spend a week doing it. And I will teach them tips like, when you wake up at night, don't toss and turn. Get up, have a dim room. So put your fairy lights up. Don't go have this really bright bathroom. Most people have a bright bathroom light, you would notice. You switch that on, your brain will perceive that light, and it will have a different cascade of chemicals that will think it's morning time. Let's get the cortisol going. And you'll go back to bed going, I can't go back to sleep. And it's often the bright light
I try to keep my eyes closed. If I have to get up to go to the bathroom in the night, I try to keep my eyes just closed, like a little slit.
Yeah. And the one thing that I found works is like what you've got in your room there, like salt lamps, candle ambience, things like fairy lights. And again, go back to really how we were evolving. In the evening, it would be fireplace material usually. Would be a sunset that would set us into sleep mode. These are messages that the brain perceives and then matches the biochemistry that floats from your brain down into your entire body. You start yawning, you start to not get so excited, you start to enjoy winding down. And that's what I wanted for people to be a fun thing, a delicious thing to look forward. Because can do for you is so good. When I list all the benefits, you'll go, oh my God, I need to do this.
Yes. So Sabine, I'm really interested in that because like I said, I've always loved sleep. And like even if I've had times where I haven't slept, like, sometimes I'm like sleeping 6 or 6.5 hours of sleep, and I'm like, no, I'd rather be doing 7.5, 8, but that's just what happens sometimes. But I never stress out about it. And even if something happens where like I'm like, I don't get a lot of sleep, I get like 4 or 5 hours, like I've always just said to myself, it's fine, I'll sleep when I'm tired, I'll sleep well tomorrow night. Like that's just a thing that I say to myself, right? But do you think, for people that have had, and like we're saying, there's like behaviors and things attached, can it be learned behavior, like learned from parents or family or environment and that kind of thing as well?
100%. So you have learned either through NLP or through having that logic. I know if I stress about it, it will just perpetuate. So
Mm,
I do, that's where I use the NLP and hypnosis to help people with sleep. It's like, can we make it so that you are relaxed and that we release any tensions around sleep, any
mm,
childhood trauma around sleep, maybe being told by your parent, you have to sleep, you're making me crazy staying up, but they actually have got a really stressed relationship with their sleep, with their bed, perhaps with their own neurology of winding down. And the poor kid, when you're lying there, you always have the worst thoughts and it wants help, and the parent is frazzled and it perpetuates it. So yes, what you're doing is the great wisdom of things. If you don't sleep well one night, okay, cool, I'll sleep better tomorrow night or this, and I will make up for that. And that is really, I teach that. Yes.
okay, good. Good to know I'm on the right track.
You are 100%. And of course you are. You understand this really well.
That is fantastic. That's really good. And I was thinking about that when you were saying like, we sort of evolved into this having firelight and sunset and those kinds of things. Do candles essentially have that same kind of effect?
Yes, candles. I just didn't mention them, but it's candles, fairy lights, salt
Yeah.
lamps, thing like that. And that's why
Yeah.
some people modify their life by in the evening only turning on dim lighting as a routine to start switching the chemistry over, or
Yeah.
to put even orange light bulbs into the rooms where they spend the evening.
Ah,
It's so powerful. It's like you're switching on the brilliant chemist in your brain. So if
yeah.
kids even had that and they had said, okay, it's evening time, it's 8 o'clock, we want to be asleep by 10, 2 hours to wind down. So don't read wild and woolly books. Don't
Mm,
do crazy games and like wind down, and the light is dim, and they will sleep like babies, and then they won't be so agitated in the morning. They will perceive and learn better at school, and they will have confidence because
mm,
lack of sleep robs you of your confidence. You become all scattery and in fight or flight, and see how it's all connected.
yeah.
It's oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. So I'd love to know, Sabine, have you got like an example, I guess, of without obviously identifying anyone, but like that where you've worked with someone, like what kind of like what are some of the most intense issues that you've seen people have with sleep? And then, how, like, I guess working with you, what's then been the outcome?
Well, the most intense that I've discovered is couples having very different needs and desires with the bedroom. And because a lot of couples come here on resort together, not always, but a lot, it's
Yeah.
really interesting hearing them talk to each other. Oh, but I want to have a Zen space room. Oh, but I like it cluttery. And, and then someone says, yeah, but I'm hot. And then you turn on the TV at night and that bothers me. And they say, yeah, but you turn on your phone and that bothers me. And so I feel like because most of us are in a relationship, if we're not, it's much easier for sleep, but is really to talk about sleep and how you wake each other up, and whether it's worth it to have different plans, different rooms, more respect, because when your husband or your wife or your partner or whatever it is sleeps better, you'll have a much better chance of getting through that relationship without killing each other and having resentfulness, and also wearing each other down. A lot of couples do that, and the really healthy couples I noticed, they actually co-create, and then they have said, wow, we feel so good, and we feel our romance is better, and our evening routine is actually a way for us to connect rather than both of us working on our business. What are we doing? For them it's been a big wake-up call. I've heard that a lot here, and they say, wow, we look forward to this next chapter of using sleep sleep, to really have a longer life, to be there for our grandkids, it's really heartwarming. It's really nice to see. Does that kind of answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, Sabine, on that, I'm a massive advocate for having separate bedrooms from your partner. My partner and I have separate bedrooms, and it's definitely helped him live longer because because he snores, and it used to drive me crazy. Like I think if I was subjected to lack of sleep for a long time, I could be like capable of injuring someone.
Yeah, and that is that drive that how much you know that you need to sleep.
Yes.
And I hear this with couples here too. They're building resentment, and they're starting to talk about sleep because they're here, and because I'm also a coach and all these millions of things I've experienced over my life, I say to them, it's really cool that you're both realizing now that you're actually frustrated with each other on some level, and it's coming to this place. And if you catch that now, you can harmonize it. Because I tell you what, if you do this for another 2 years, one of you will be either sick or unwell or blame the other or get angry or whatever it is. It affects everything, your hormones, your mental health. It will have an impact.
Definitely. I've definitely found us having separate bedrooms has made a huge positive impact on our relationship. and I think that's an important thing though, because do you find that people are very much conditioned that, oh my God, if you've got a healthy relationship, you have to be sleeping in the same room and the same bed, and you've got to be putting up with this stuff? Yeah.
You read my mind, because we're a similar way. I just love everything you do. Yes, and we have to unwire that. And people often, by the time they think of this, they're really desperate. They actually realize it's a fight for their life. I see the women saying, God, I can't give up that just to sleep next to them, because it's not sexy, it's not romantic, it's not anything. And so, yes, if they have that belief, which a lot of people do, oh my God, well, if we're not in the same bed, doesn't mean we're going to divorce soon. I say, if you've got that belief, let's investigate that one, because it's actually the other way around. You're evolving and nurturing each other on a better level, and really you're gonna grow into the sunset of your life, much more likely.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just it's whatever works best for you and your relationship, isn't it? I'm not saying everyone has to sleep separately, but if it's a problem, it's a very good solution. And I think it is part of that evolution, because I think you have to be okay in that you're not in this kind of codependent kind of, oh, we have to be in this connected, all that kind of stuff, which I would have been like actually years ago before I did the work on myself. That was me. I was very kind of clingy. Whereas now I'm like, no, it's much better to have your own space. And I guess to be in that place of knowing that, well, it's up to me to make myself okay, and it's up to them to make themselves okay, and then together we cohabitate and come together and grow in that way, and it's much healthier kind of perspective.
And you've just given people a whole coaching session there to have the guts to ask that and to realize, wow, actually, I never thought of this. Maybe let's do it. And, the woman can create her sanctuary. The guy can have his whatever version of that is. And then you meet in between. You want to come to my room tonight? You want to come to my room? Whatever it is. And people appreciate each other more. I mean, it is an infinitely, amazingly powerful choice to make. Unless it's working for you, it's worth looking at that. Yes.
Yes. Oh, fabulous. This is such an interesting conversation, Sabine. I'm so excited. So I would love to know, you were saying you've told a lot of things, but is there some specific tips, or even, I know that you hinted at before, you said about the importance or the benefits and those kinds of things of good sleep. So I'd love to know some of this more mind-blowing things about what is it that sleep affects, and why is it so important?
Well, the science does agree with this. And I always say science does change its mind. It's always developing and evolving. But science does nowadays agree that your number one priority, ideally, if you want to be healthy, ought to be sleep. I don't like to say should, because that puts the pressure on. Ought to be. But if you're really looking for your best life, above nutrition, above everything. And it makes sense, because you and I, loving NLP and Hypno, we actually understand that the mind is more powerful than anything. I mean, if you read the Course in Miracles, people there transcended the mind so much they can eat poison. I don't recommend this to anyone. super conscious where you can get poison into the mouth and out without affecting you. So
Because
science,
Wim Hof does something like that as well, doesn't he? He's done Wim
I don't,
Hof with his,
I don't know if
yeah.
he eats poison, but I wouldn't be surprised if he,
Yeah, I know he's got some, they've documented some incredible kind of control he has over his body. Yeah.
yeah, and the breath control and all that yogic, which is affecting your nervous system and makes you feel like you're empowered and you're actually connected with yourself. You're in the body rather than in the mind, in the future or the past. You're actually embodied. So your body, this is what I always say, is the most incredible machine, and your mind is the most incredibly powerful thing that is more than we even realize. And you know, that's what your and my passion is. Realize your mind is you can do all these things physically, you can do them consciously, you can eat the best food, but if you are stressed and a part of you believes something that is not essentially working for you, it will be overridden by that. And so I would say that, I don't know how we got to this point. What were you asking? There was something that got me
The things about the importance of sleep and what it does for your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the most important thing really, essentially, I was saying how science agrees it's more important than nutrition and exercise, although nutrition and exercise support sleep and vice versa, because we are literally creating mental health when we sleep. Because when we sleep, our memories are consolidated. Our lymphatic system, which I didn't used to know, right? I knew lymphatic, but I didn't know lymphatic, that's the brain. I didn't know that we create chemical waste in the brain. I had no clue about that in the past. And we actually detox that at night. And if we don't get the full sleep, or we only get 2 hours, or we get disturbed, or we don't feel safe to go deep and go into that detox, because during that detox, you don't want to be waking up. It's like you're in a process, from what I know, from what science says right now. So therefore, if we're missing out on it, can you imagine? Our thinking is foggy, which creates our reality. So if we integrate the mind and really work with that, we sabotage. For example, someone wants to get pregnant. Yes, sleep is important. But if you're nervous and you have anxiety since the last 5 or 10 or 20 years, you don't get the deep sleep, your brain will actually make you feel fearful and negative about potentially conceiving and all of that stuff. And on top of that, the biochemistry is not supportive. It actually thinks it's probably not safe to have a kitty right now because she's under a lot of stress. So people go on a holiday to conceive. People go and relax and take diets, but the main key is actually that they're relaxing, because you can eat all the healthy food. I've met women like that. They eat all the best foods. They all go to the gym. They all do their yoga. They're like, da, 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 but they're so stressed underneath it that it's not enough to get pregnant, as an example. Really powerful.
Yeah. So it is that stress. And I guess, you know, as you was talking about that, I guess some of the areas where, like, because like you said, it's more important than nutrition, because how long can you go without sleep? Because you can go without food for like 3-4 weeks or whatever, right? Yeah. And water, you can even go for, it's a lot less, but I can't remember. But how long can you actually survive without sleep?
I think no longer than 3 days. Even after a day of no sleep, you feel it. Even after 2 days. And remember, I always find that a awful analogy, but in the past they knew that and they made it a torture. So if they captured you and they didn't give you sleep, you would give them everything. You would go and do everything because you needed that sleep. It is so torturous to be kept awake, because literally your brain will go nuts, and that's your operating system. So it sense on a biological level, but at the moment it seems that us humans are only just remembering that and doing almost everything to sabotage it with the lights that we have, with the internet, with the way we're stressing.
And people that are working like shift work and all those kinds of things, that would have a big impact.
Huge, huge, huge. And one of the reasons why I've stopped sleep research is because we would be up at night, monitoring, setting up, being there. And I felt so sick when I did that. It was literally physically and mentally, I cannot stay up all night until 4 a.m. to do this. It's so nauseating for me. Other people are tougher and younger and they can get away with it, but so night shift, there's a lot of study on night shift and the effects on that and how to compensate and what to do. And thank God there are remedies, but
amazing. So what do you what do you say is good sleep hygiene. Is that a word? Sleep hygiene. So it's that you were saying before, it's like winding down for a couple of hours before bed, having the lights. What else would we want to focus on?
One really powerful thing is that we are, as you know, programmed. So if you try to go to bed at the same time, whether that make it something 10 or 10:30, and you stick to that, within 3 days, your body will naturally crave to wind down 2 hours before, and you'll be yawning and you'll be dreaming about your bed just before you get there. And it's really nice because you also know you're doing something good for yourself.
Yes, that was like a suggestion, Sabine. I started going, yes, I can hear my bed calling me.
Yeah, and even educating all our friends. They say, why are you going to bed at 11 every day? And I'm, well, I've got so much energy, clarity. I don't have diabetes anymore. My gut is improved because gut health is linked. I don't have inflammation because inflammation is linked to lack of sleep. It's so many things. So
Yeah.
I prioritize sleep and educate your friends, educate your family, and walk the walk and talk the talk. And people will go, hang on, I want what they have. Because you're going to be.
That having a regular bedtime is a key thing, isn't it? I know a lot of people struggle with that because I've got it set in my calendar. I get a reminder, like my bedtime's 10 o'clock, and which is good for me because I don't like working at nighttime anyway. So and I don't watch TV. So I'm there's nothing to do, right? There's nothing that I want to stay up for. But I know that's a big one for people, isn't it? Is that actually bringing that sleep time back from like 1 o'clock midnight or whatever. What are the key benefits? Because there's something like specific around that time at night, isn't there?
Human growth hormone release, number one, and that's the longevity. That's the hormone everybody wants to feel their best, to build muscle, to have good, rejuvenation. So the human growth hormone tends to release earlier rather than once it's gone past midnight and into the later, because we are still programmed to go with the sun. We are still programmed to ideally be up at sunrise and ideally to wind down at sunset. We haven't been able to eliminate that. Our whole design is around that. From less than 200 years ago, we completely followed that, and only now we are. So that is really, really important. And well, not just regular bedtime, but also people, for example, let's continue with that one. Don't hydrate just before bed. So many people do that. I'm like, no. Hydrate earlier as part of the evening routine. Check in at 6 o'clock and start to go, okay, I know I want to go to sleep at 10. I'm going to wind down at 8. Let me hydrate now. Let me not have the stimulants after about midday. There are so many things that can help people, and hence to get the rejuvenating benefit of sleep, which is, what is it giving you, like you were asking? So the human growth hormone, yes. And there's also something called clock genes during the night. Like the ancient Chinese have known this. They understand liver, kidney detoxing, and all those organs have a particular clock. Well, science is found, and I was so excited to see it, there is clock genes. So science will eventually catch up with that. But we have clock genes that switch on and off at certain times that then have certain proteins released, which create certain mechanisms of healing and repair. Now, we are not evolved to be up at 3 and 5 and 1. So we're going against it. And that's why more and more people are having maybe early onset diabetes, because it's also linked with your sugar metabolism and your potential to have diabetic issues or insulin dysregulation. Oh my God, it is so massive. It's so massive.
That is fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating, Sabine. And I think, I think that's the thing I've just caught myself out on is I tend to hydrate late because I go, oh, okay, I'm like going to be going to bed. And then I'm like, oh, how much water have I drank? And I'm like, I've had a drink.
Go to the bathroom at night.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's something that's my action piece from this, Sabine. Thank you. I want to make sure I hydrate myself properly before 8 o'clock.
And another one I'll add to it, I know you are on the ball and you've got more questions, but another one that's really powerful is that if we don't get enough sleep, we tend to crave sugar and fat more. And because the body basically is saying, it's so smart, hey, we're not getting enough sleep. What's going on? If we do need to run away from a saber-toothed tiger or from some threat, which these days is everything from a red light to a bad email, right? We need the energy. And so it will make you have an insane deep craving for instant energy, sugar and sustainable energy, which is fat. So the chocolate comes into it, the fatty foods, the chips, the lemonades, and all those things then cause weight problems. And it's really hard. I've had it a few times when I didn't have good sleep, and I noticed how much I craved a Mars bar or whatever it would be. And I really observed it, because I observed myself and wow, at that time you need to catch yourself if you can and have a hard-boiled egg, or make sure you have a really good dinner at 6, not too close. That's another tip. Don't have your dinner before bed. Have it around 6 or 5 if you want to wind down at 8 and sleep by 10. It makes a huge difference to your quality of sleep as well. Anyway, I had to add that in. There you
Yeah,
are.
no, I love that. I love that. And I think that's the thing I noticed for myself. If I've got to start my day with lots of protein, because otherwise I'm like looking for the fatty sugar chocolates, you know, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah. This is fascinating, Sabine. I'm sure that we could, you know, talk about this for hours, and it's so fascinating. But what I would really love to know is, I guess, you know, if someone like recognizes that they've got sleep issues, and it's gone beyond, like they might have tried different things, and you know, it's not working, or they're really struggling, like what would you recommend that they do?
If they've tried things and they're struggling, it's in the unconscious mind. Something is trying to keep you the same and doesn't consider it to be important over the other things that they are doing. So for example, they might be in a marriage where there's a demand that you think they're going to leave you if you don't go out partying till late at night. Or there is something where your unconscious says it's more important that I do this rather than actually the self-love, self-care, which is getting the good sleep. And because you know how it is, secondary benefit. So even though they're suffering and are tired, they just drink the 5 coffees during the day to get through it. And it's not sustainable, but sometimes that can work for 5, 10, or 20 years. And people like that may notice that they're getting stressed more, or that they are having other health issues, but they may not link it. So yeah, that's really big stuff.
Yeah. So then, you know, I guess, is that your approach for people then, if they've been just having ongoing issues, and they could reach out to someone like you, and then you go more into looking at like all their mindset and their beliefs and all those kinds of things around what's happening, not just the behaviors.
100%.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people are stuck, they tried it, they get frustrated. So it boils down to also feeling the self-love and feeling like, actually I matter and my sleep is really important, and no one should be able to disturb that, because that's my, you know, that's my foundation. And once they see that, it's really easy. Once they see it, it becomes a no-brainer. It's not even a choice. They negotiate it with their family, they put boundaries up. But until that recognition has happened, and you know all about this as well, when people will not change, it's because they're not ready to see the benefit, and the unconscious is holding them there. And now we see the benefit. And also the other way, there's this fabulous technique where if you keep going this way for 10 years, how do you think you're going to feel? And if you change it and get good sleep and you go out into the future, how do you think that's going to unfold in your life? And people, wow, that's true. I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to look younger. And they might leave me anyway because I'm old and cranky and want to kill him all the time. So I'm just going to, you know, I'm just going to nail my sleep and be vivacious and passionate and have all my, you know, my own self-confidence intact and everything. And then people are keen and they love the change. They enjoy it. Yes. So it's what it is usually
That's
then.
definitely worth. It's definitely worth. I think you've really well demonstrated today, Sabine, just how important sleep is, and you know, how much it really does make a difference to all areas of your life, really, because it's health, it's relationships, it's everything. Your whole mindset is impacted by your sleep, right?
I would say in a true love relationship, you honor each other's sleep. That was my new sentence that you just inspired me towards. If you're truly in love with someone and they with you, you make sure each other gets good sleep. Otherwise, no.
I've got very, very, very strong boundaries around my sleep.
Yes, that's really good. You love yourself, and he accepts that, and also does not, try to change that. That's a healthy relationship.
Yeah, we, for my partner and I, we're both the same. He's just as happy to have his own room so that I'm not elbowing him all night to roll over.
Love it. It's so good.
Oh, this is so good. So I'd love to know, it's been like for you, and I know often there's like we can get really passionate about the thing that we do, and often there's challenges in running business or really developing our craft. But what is the thing that for you is the most rewarding thing about what you do?
The most rewarding thing by far is when people say to me, I can see it on their face, you've really changed our lives. And when later on they tell me, this has gone through the whole family now. This is what I'm teaching my kids. This is what I'm teaching my elderly parents. This has gone to create a wave, of positive change. My heart melts beyond melt. And there's nothing more rewarding than hearing that and seeing people just looking happier, feeling
Yeah.
empowered. You can see the radiance. You know how it is that physiology changes.
Yes.
You just know it. And I'm like, oh, goodness me, that's worth living for. Just knowing I could make that difference when before they were suffering and feeling tired and not even realizing that they weren't getting the best sleep. They just thought that's just life. I have to just live,
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that's one of those things that can be outside of people's conscious awareness, right? That and they just live at this kind of, kind of
acceptance.
level of life where it's just like, oh, this is just, it's a slog and rah rah. And when there can really be some quite simple things that they can do that completely change everything for them. Yeah.
Yes. So I see people here, elderly couples, and like I'm going, well, you might be traveling to Peru and climb some mountains next with all this extra energy. And they giggle and laugh. Absolutely. Because when you don't get the sleep, you don't have the energy to do these adventures. But when you get the sleep, you start to think, hey, what's next, my darling? What are we up for next? It's so beautiful.
Yes. Yes. I love that, Sabine. And so I know, look, like I said, we could keep talking, but I think it's probably about time we wrapped up for today. But I really wanted just for the people listening to know how they can get in contact with you. I know your website is sabinechristelli.com, and I'll pop that in the show notes. And you've got a podcast of your own called Sleep Easy. Yes, I'd love to know. Can you tell us a little bit about that podcast as well?
It's actually a podcast I created for the Reef House. It's a joint venture, and it's all about sleep. It's actually a really good one to explore because in it, I talk in a very relaxed, hypnotic way, number one, so people can listen to it and go to bed. And I also teach some skills about how to journal, how to do the breath, what to do when you wake up at night. So it's a good resource for everybody, and obviously it's free, and it's on all the different podcast channels, platforms. It's all there.
Fantastic. So Sleep Easy, that will be in the notes as well. And of course, you do have a free download of meditation that I'll pop in the notes. So that's a sleep meditation, and it helps people wake up with confidence. Yeah.
I'm actually uploading a sleep one, so that's coming up. When you go and check it out, I made it, and it's still in transit.
So you've got plenty of resources. People can go and check that out as well. So that is amazing. And of course, the final question I always like to ask my guests, because I know as a business owner, and many people experience that we can often get so caught up in what we do that it becomes all consuming. But what is it, Sabine, that you do for fun?
Pure fun is often woven in with what I do because I love what I do so much. But yes, today I went to the sauna up the road. There's a place here, and I love that. And just floating on the water afterwards, walking around, exploring nature, taking photos of it, being with my kitties, dancing. I love that, and I love having time to myself. As much as I'm very social, I have these two things. So I think life is fun overall. I really do. Okay.
Yes, and you're living in a very beautiful part of the world. I mean, there's so much to see and do up there. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's fabulous. Well, Sabine, thank you so much for being such a fascinating guest. You've shared, you've been so generous with what you've shared, and I'm sure for everyone listening, and definitely for me, there's been lots to learn and take in. And so thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, it's been my pleasure too, and we could easily do a part 2. Hey, audience, if you want more, let them know, and let Toni know, and we'll do a part 2. I'll be so happy for that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sabine.
Thank you, Toni, so much.